This is Chris with Resolute Philanthropy, and today I want to talk about ways we as fundraisers overcomplicate the relationship with our donors. And then I want to have a clumsy transition into talking about board involvement in fundraising. Okay, so here we go. Let's talk about overcomplicating. When we as fundraisers overcomplicate things, generally speaking, what's happening is we're putting things in between the donor and the mission. Sometimes we do this in the name of convenience. Sometimes we do this in the name of tradition. But what it ultimately is we do a lot of things so don't actually have to ask directly. So the donor will give us money in other ways. They will be spurred to generosity through other ways. Now, I don't mean to beat up on special events because special events can do really good things for you. But this is where we often see it, right? Like instead of a direct ask or a fund a need portion, maybe you're a nonprofit that does an event and you've got 15 silent auction items. And each of those items had to be secured and maybe bought or maybe donated and taken care of. Maybe it had to be assembled, brought to the space. Everyone has to, during the event, everyone bids on it. Only one person is actually going to make a gift because it's an auction item. And then we have to make sure those people get the thing. And then there's a live auction, and it's more of the same, including maybe we're buying some things on consignment, so there's money out of pocket. Will these auction items generate income for the organization? Yes. Do these auction items come with a significant cost of time and labor and energy? Yes. Is there a more direct way to get people to give? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know why we do this, right? It's really clear why we set these systems up, why we build these things that keep the donor at a distance. It's because we're maybe not confident that they're going to give to us, right? If they don't bid on the beach house in Cabo, that's because they maybe don't like Cabo or beach houses. If they don't give to us when we ask them, that hurts a lot. And it's hard to put ourselves in a position like that. Also, there's tradition. We've always done it this way. Our founder loved this. Our board members love this. Every other nonprofit is doing this. Why aren't we doing this? There's a lot of reasons why. But it's this idea of overcomplicating things, of putting more elements in between the asker and the mission and the donor. It's kind of insidious and it really starts to weigh us down. And another way it shows up is in how we think about and how we work with our board members when it comes to fundraising. And it's a common topic, right? I think I've talked about it in half a dozen videos already about how do we help our board members be more successful in fundraising. One of the things that is slowing us down and holding us back is that we're complicating things. And we're putting board involvement in fundraising, we're putting all of that under the auspices of a give-get policy. We're like, we've got this policy, all you have to do is fill out this policy. Or we're saying, well, we want our board members to help us get sponsors for the event. We've given all of the board members a PDF of the sponsorship packet. That should be enough. Now it's up to them. And these things end up not working or not working in a sustainable fashion. These things get mixed up with what is very common, a lack of clear expectations about what we actually need board members to do. And the end result is nobody is happy. Board members feel like they're being asked to do something they're not prepared to do. Staff members feel like board members aren't doing the thing. Nobody wins. So how do we simplify it? Here's 3 things you can do to simplify the way you think about your board members' roles when it comes to fundraising. The first is we have to think big, right? We know, you and I know, that fundraising is not just the art of asking for money, right? There's a ton of other elements at play. Fundraising is the art of inviting people into the mission and giving them a chance to get to know the mission and to see a place for them in this mission. Fundraising is the art of showing gratitude and showing impact, whether it's through something simple like a phone call or something more complicated like a report. Board members can play a role in any number of fundraising activities, but too often we imagine their role as solely sitting in the solicitation camp, i.e., asking their friends for money. But could your board members feel like they're successful fundraisers if they helped make phone calls? quarterly thank you calls to donors who gave in the last 90 days, and they got a thank you call from your board members. I think that would be really effective, and I think your board members would like that. So think big when you think about fundraising and the role your board members can play. Second, we need to get personal when it comes to fundraising, and we really need to get personal when it comes to our board members. There is a pretty common practice that when somebody makes it onto the board, or even has been on the board for a while, we kind of assume that they know everything they need to know, that they're bought in, that they're 100% in line, aligned, and ready to go when it comes to the mission of the organization, when the reality is they may not be. Maybe they are still have some questions. Maybe they want to learn more. Maybe they're not quite sure about X or Y or Z. If we treat our board members like a kind of faceless collective, then we'll keep making this mistake. But if we start to get to know them personally and taking the time to cultivate those relationships and build those relationships, great things will happen, especially when we start asking about why our board members are board members, right? Nobody just stumbles into a conference room and just becomes a board member, right? People have to choose. They're choosing to give of their time, their expertise, their energy. They've made this choice. Let's find out why. Because once we find out why they are part of this organization, why it matters to them, that becomes the fuel we can use to fundraise. That becomes the story they can tell to potential donors. It's a really, really a really powerful piece of information, and we're only going to get it if we ask, and we ask personally, and we take the time to get to know these board members as individuals who believe in this cause. And the third is about expertise. Who is the expert here? Spoiler alert, it's not your board members. Your board members aren't experts of your organization. You, staff member, fundraiser, you're the expert. You're the one who knows the ins and outs and ups and downs of what this organization does, how it does it, why it does it. That's your role. Your role is to bring this expertise. If we expect our board members to fundraise from a place of expertise, they will never do it because they're not going to feel like they are experts. Because the amount of time you, full-time fundraisers, spend thinking about this organization is vastly different than the amount of time your board members spend thinking about this mission. Even if they love you and love the mission, they have another job. They have a whole, they're over here, you're over here. You are the experts. So don't expect your board members or your key volunteers to be experts and somehow think that that's going to drive their fundraising success. What's going to drive their fundraising success is their ability in and their excitement to be joyful representatives of your mission, authentic representatives of your mission, people who can say, this is something I really believe in. Let me tell you why. And when they get a question they can't answer, when they get a question that requires expertise, they can lobby it to you. You can answer that question. That's your job. So thinking big, getting personal, being the expert, these are all ways that we can really simplify and streamline our fundraising operations when it comes to our board members. Now, if you would like to know more, I am leading a webinar on this very topic on November the 12th. I'm going to put the link and the registration information in the comments section of this video. I hope you can join me. I think there's so much we can do with our boards, and there's so many ways we can make them feel not only supported, but just joyful about this work. Because remember, fundraising isn't a thing by itself. We're not fundraising for the sheer joy of fundraising. We do this work so we can make the mission sing. So we can make this is the fuel that's going to drive your mission. And we all want to be a part of that. So November 12th, webinar, link in the comments. Secondly, this is the kind of work I do with clients. Board training, board coaching, like really getting into the nuts and bolts of your fundraising operations, aligning everything in the right way and accelerating it so you're going in the right direction at a speed that's going to maintain your mission. If you want to do more with your fundraising, or you want to explore ways that we can work together, again, drop a note. Let's get working. Let's get started. Keep up the good work. We'll see you next time.